Hey, it's Mazzy. Welcome back to It's the Music Stupid. This is number 46. This is where I showcase 5 records, more or less, from my collection. I pulled together these a little bit thematically, or at least genre. A theme of the genre is soul music, because it gets short-shifted a little bit around here, which is unfortunate because I have a decent soul section. But I thought I'd pull 5 records that I'm in the mood for right now. These aren't the best. And when someone says, you forgot, I didn't forget anything. I chose these 5. It's the Music Stupid. Now you can get it in heather gray. Now, if you don't go black, heather is kind of a nice thing when you dress for success. So check the link below, now in heather gray, available in the US and Europe on that same link. So check it out. This is a large. It's the Music Stupid. That means I'm telling myself, it's the music first. Yes, we want good sound, but it's the music. And then you find the best pressing and the best version that sounds good on your stereo and to your taste and your rig. I'm starting out with this record called MPG from 1969. This is, of course, the wonderful Marvin Gay. This was his biggest selling album of the 1960s, and it's one that you don't see very often. Not that it's particularly rare, but it's one you don't think of. You think of all the Marvin Gaye hits, Grapevine, and just a wonderful, run of hit singles for Motown in the 1960s and Tamla. This is on Tamla Records. This crosses a little bit into that 1969 psychedelic soul that was happening. The Temptations were all over that record with psychedelic soul. Produced by Norman Whitfield, I believe, produced this. And the hit on this, it had several hits. And this was, I think, the first Marvin Gaye album that hit #1 on the soul charts and hit high on the pop charts. I think Too Busy Thinking About My Baby was the big soul hit on this record. The P stands for his middle name. I am blanking on his middle name, but that's what the P stands for. Again, a wonderful record. In 1969, he also did that really great duet album with Tammy Terrell. Unfortunately, she died way too young. But later that year, in 1969, he did that duets album with Tammy Terrell. And then after this, there was a couple of hits albums, best of type of things that happened. And of course, into the 70s, was it 71, 72, What's Going On? When Motown, because of him, and especially him and Stevie Wonder, really started doing political, social issues. To the, Berry Gordy really wasn't on top of that, wasn't for that at the time. But of course, Marvin Gaye and Stevie Wonder led that direction, which is so important in the 1970s. Of course, the tailored look changed into the more, urban, wonderful look of the 70s, like long hair on white guys and more afros and facial hair, and just, great social tinged music. And when someone says to me, take the politics out of my music, I'll just point to Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye right away. Of course, I like pop songs and I like soul songs, and all the Motown stuff is wonderful. But this is a fantastic album, so check it out. Next, an album by Peebles, I Can't Stand the Rain. That's the song that everybody knows. If someone asks you, have you ever heard of Peebles? Not everyone right now knows her name. I think this is her 4th album. This was on High Records. This is that Memphis soulful, funky sound. What a wonderful record. Her and her husband, Don Bryant, wrote a bunch of the songs, most of the songs, including the opener and the great hit, I Can't Stand the Rain, that percussion. Now, if you listen to her records, they're kind of hard to get right now. I don't know if they've all been reissued. I think they have little by little, but anytime you see an Peebles record, just grab it, especially if it's reasonably priced. But, any price within your means, just friggin' grab it. If you know Al Green, and you're all over Al Green, this is basically Willie Mitchell, the same producer, the same musicians, the Memphis horns, that Memphis soulful sound that was happening. I mean, you could take an Al Green record and put her vocals on it, and it would be an Peebles. album, and you can take obviously hers and put on Al Green. And of course, Al Green had more of the hits and great records. Both these records, you could interchange them, and they're great companion records. She never made a bad record, I don't think, is like pretty much like Al Green, exactly. Just a wonderful album, probably her most famous, but any record of hers. And I'm not even saying this is her best, but of course, that was her only really high charted single, I Can't Stand the Rain. And it's a friggin' fantastic song. Now, another wonderful album that a lot of people seem to have passed on. It did okay, but it really didn't break things on the charts. I don't even think it hit the Hot 100. And again, sales aren't everything, but they are when you want the acknowledgement, especially in the 1970s. 1975, this wonderful record by Curtis Mayfield came out, and this is There's No Place Like America Today. Let me start with the cover image because it's a famous illustration. Well, it's an illustration based on a very famous photograph by Margaret Bourke White, who was one of the Life magazine's wonderful photographers. I think shot this in the late 30s. The lines of America, the bread lines, and obviously, the food lines. And of course, it shows the opposites here of in this particular case of white and black America, and go to the suburbs and have this wonderful car and your family driving, and then of course the line here on. But this is a social record. Obviously, Curtis Mayfield was very known for that. He'd come out of doing a bunch of soundtracks the year before and put this album out. And it didn't do as well as it should have. It has been reissued over the years. I think there's a Kevin Gray cut from a few years ago on Rhino. But anytime you can grab this record, get it. It is such a delicious record. It's such a moving record and really a great record. Curtis Mayfield, in my mind, can do no wrong. A wonderful record. Of course, at this point, it was really important to put all these song lyrics on these records because it really kind of gets into Hard Times, song Jesus, When Seasons Change, Billy Jack, Blue Monday People. Fantastic record by the great Curtis Mayfield. Of the impressions early on. Another record that gets into the spiritual, psychedelic jazz side, and this was from 1973. And this is my favorite album by Billy Paul. This is Billy Paul's favorite album as well. Most people, again, know his hit. The main hit is Me and Mrs. Jones. Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Jones. I'm not going to even attempt to sing that song because what a great voice. This is a spiritual, kind of neo-psychedelic. Obviously that soul psychedelic thing was gone by the late 60s into 1970, but this goes into that whole spiritual side. It's a very religious record, very spiritual record. There's only, I believe, 6 songs. It has this magnificent cover art right there. And of course, that wonderful gatefold of Billy Paul. There's a Latin aspect to some of it. It's jazzy. It's serene and surreal and beautiful with upbeat tempos as well on this record. But this is, there he is, Billy Joel. Not Billy Joel. Billy Paul. God, how dare I even... Nice, cool friggin' hat. He was a good hat wearer too. Produced by Gamble and Huff on Philly International Record, which was an offshoot of Columbia and Epic Records. So it's got that Philly sound of Philadelphia, basically, and recorded in Philadelphia. Just a wonderful, wonderful album. A very sexy album as well. So highly recommend. You see this album, you grab it. Again, I think this goes for a little bit of money, not crazy money. But find a copy of this because it's just a really wonderful record. And lastly, I want to show one of the great live albums, the great soul records that really crossed over in a wonderful way. 1971's Aretha Franklin live at the Fillmore West. San Francisco, Bill Graham's infamous Fillmore West. This is that period when Jerry Wexler really wanted to, push some of these black artists and soul artists, R&B artists to these wide audiences. Obviously in the jazz field, Miles Davis had played the Fillmore. Bill Graham in the late 60s and 68 and 69, 67 even, as early as that, would do a lot of soul records with B.B. King and Albert King, Live Wire Blues Power. I mean, that's on the blues side. And even adding artists like Ravi Shankar, mixing it up with rock groups, blues and rock and soul. And that was the great thing about Bill Graham putting these acts together. But this was a special night. Unfortunately, I didn't really know about this in 1971. I could have gone because, but this was actually, the year before, or around the year the Fillmore closed, I guess. The Fillmore was closed. But this is a great thing. Now, what's wonderful about this is Curtis Mayfield's band backed her up. And this album, live at the Fillmore West, King Curtis, not Curtis Mayfield. Too many Curtises. I'm tripping over my lips, overlapping my names, transpiring my names. But this is live recorded, no edits this time. But what a great band. Billy Preston was in the band here, Cornell Dupree on guitar, and they backed Aretha up. She played the piano, she played Electric Rhodes on here. One track is with the great Ray Charles. I believe Spirit in the Night, yeah, is a reprise. Plays with Ray Charles on this. But there's even some pop songs for the hippie crowd, if you will. It opens up with Otis Redding's Respect. What a great version of that. It goes into Bridge Over Troubled Waters, and a wonderful version, Love of the One You're With by Stephen Stills. Eleanor Rigby, of course. And she had covered most of these songs on her Atlantic Records anyway. Dr. Feelgood's on here that she wrote with Ted White. Spirit in the Dark, of course. What a great, great song. And a great, great album. Look at that performance. Look at that show of wonderful record. Very hot live record from 1971. There's been, I understand, expanded versions. This is a killer record too, so if you see this, grab it. So you're getting an extra cut here. There is the group, and of course, the wonderful King Curtis backing up Aretha Franklin in 1971 on this is on Atlantic, this is on Atco, sister labels basically, in San Francisco in 1971. Thank you. Mazzy loves you. Comments below. It's the Music Stupid. And Heather Gray.